Nigeria is using a system of tax credits to encourage private companies to share the cost of infrastructure projects as part of a drive to diversify Africa's biggest economy away from its reliance on oil sales. The country's tax chief, Babatunde Fowler, says Nigeria aims to double her tax revenue in 2019.
Africa's biggest oil-producing country has sought to diversify its economy away from crude sales, but has struggled to improve non-oil revenues as debt servicing costs rise. The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Babatunde Fowler, says the country is using a system of tax credits to encourage private companies to share the cost of infrastructure projects as part of a drive to diversify its economy. Mr. Fowler notes that more than 10 local companies have applied for the scheme to receive 50% of expenditure in tax credits.
Slowly but surely we're getting there. There are a lot of little businesses that may charge VAT and not remitted, or may not even be charging VAT. And we're focusing, first of all, on the bigger, larger businesses, especially when you look at the situation whereby the economy has just come out of a recession. We want to make sure that we do not burden the small business owners.
He explained that 2 companies had successfully applied to receive tax credits for infrastructure projects so far. One was part of the Dangote Group conglomerate, owned by the continent's richest man, Aliko Dangote, which will build a road under the scheme, but he did not name the other company. The tax credit scheme was signed into law under an executive order by President Muhammadu Buhari in January. Mr. Fowler said 5.32 trillion naira was collected in taxes in 2018, and his office was targeting 8.9 trillion naira this year, adding that the increase was possible because the number of taxpayers was expected to jump to around 45 million this year from 20 million in 2018.
A lot of people do not keep accurate books or do not even keep financials because the issue of taxation was not really on the front burner, if I can put it that way, for a very long time. So now people are engaging accountants, trying to put their finances in order, and then try to see how much taxes they should pay based on the businesses that they have done.
Fowler, speaking at his office in the capital, Abuja, said a move to include value-added tax, VAT, on all online transactions was expected to come into force in January 2020. He said e-commerce was, at present, a tax loophole.
Personally, I believe that Nigeria should review the VAT rates, maybe to 7.5%. I've often said it. That will still remain one of the lowest in Africa. Our neighbors close by in Ghana, South Africa, across Africa, have an average of at least 15% when it comes to VAT.
But Fowler's targets, which he described as ambitious, may be hard to meet in a country of 190 million people, where around 80% of the workforce is employed in the informal sector.
And shaping inclusive growth and shared futures in the fourth industrial revolution, that's the theme of this year's World Economic Forum on Africa, which ends today in Cape Town, South Africa. The conference did not go without some disruptions caused by the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, which led to some countries, including Nigeria, pulling out of the summit. Well, our business correspondent, Itumeleng Mafisa, however, was on ground to follow this session, and he joins us now for update. Hello, Itumeleng. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Well, the West Africa ends today, but would you describe it as successful, irrespective of the disruptions?
Well, you know, many economists keep saying that the Economic Forum has become nothing but a talk show. We see people coming up with strategies and policies, but, you know, some economists, of course, we saw many disruptions coming from WEF, but as a closing day today, we hope that most of what was adopted and planned, and we obviously expect that business people and countries have made certain deals. So we expect to see some thing coming out of this year's WEF.
All right, the theme of the summit centers on shaping inclusive growth and shared futures in the fourth industrial revolution. What are the conversations around this theme, and what are the business leaders pushing for?
Well, the conversations around this theme, of course, is the introduction of technology into the region. We've seen technology taking over almost everywhere in the financial sector, in the engineering sector. So what we're seeing at this year's WEF is how we can best integrate technology into our different regions, into business and into markets. So we expected to see that the African leaders will talk about strategies of how to create jobs, especially with the dawn of technology, and how to work with technology and not against it. So we saw the launch of the e-commerce agenda, which is a technology-based way by governments and the international trade community to launch around 300 million jobs by 2025.
So what key facts do you think participants at this forum will be taking away?
Well, what we expect to see participants at this forum taking away, of course, is that Africa is growing. Africa is open for business. And with the signing of the Africa Free Trade Agreement, of course, this makes business in Africa easier across African countries. Although with the rise in xenophobic attacks in South Africa this year, this will not make that agreement quite good in terms of how it will be productive. But we do expect that more business will be had in the continent, and that regions and that borders will become porous for business to take place.
All right, thank you, Itumeleng. Let's just hope that next week will bring forth a better days ahead. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Well, with that, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program, and of course, for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimezie Obi Iwago.